Groceries didn't just get more expensive, they got structurally more expensive. And that's why prices aren't going back down anytime soon. Over the past few years, people everywhere have noticed the same thing. You go to the store, pick up the same items you've always bought, and somehow the total is way higher than you expected. It's not just one or two products, it's everything. Eggs, meat, produce, snacks, basic staples. The entire grocery bill has shifted upward. At first, most people assumed this was temporary, a spike caused by inflation, supply chain issues, or the aftermath of the pandemic. But what's happening now isn't just a temporary increase. It's a system-level shift. And to understand it, you have to look at what actually changed behind the scenes. The first piece of the puzzle is supply chains. During the pandemic, global supply chains were disrupted at almost every level. Factories slowed down, shipping costs surged, ports were back up for weeks, labor shortages made production and transportation more expensive. All of that increased the cost of getting food from producers to stores. Now, a lot of those disruptions have improved. Shipping is smoother, production is more stable. But here's the key point. Prices didn't just fully come back down. Because once companies raised prices to cover higher costs, they didn't have much incentive to reverse them. Which leads to the second factor, input costs. Farming today is significantly more expensive than it used to be. Fertilizer prices increased, fuel costs went up, equipment became more expensive, labor is more costly. All of those inputs directly affect how much it costs to produce food. And when production costs rise, those costs get passed down through the system. From farmers to distributors to grocery stores and finally to consumers. But that still doesn't fully explain why prices stay high even after some costs stabilize. This is where the structure of the industry matters. The food industry is highly consolidated. A relatively small number of large corporations control a significant share of food production, processing, and distribution. That gives them pricing power. Pricing power means they don't just react to costs. They can influence prices. When costs go up, they raise prices quickly. But when costs level off or even decline, prices don't necessarily fall at the same speed. Because from a business perspective, there's no strong incentive to lower them, especially if consumers are still buying. And this is where margins come into play. In many cases, companies aren't just maintaining profits, they're expanding them. Higher prices don't just cover higher costs. They can also increase profitability. And in a market with limited competition at scale, there's less pressure to bring prices back down. Then there's another factor that makes this even more persistent: expectations. When businesses expect future costs to rise, they often increase prices in advance. They build those expectations into current pricing, which creates a feedback loop. Prices go up, expectations adjust, and then those expectations justify keeping prices high. Over time, what started as a temporary shock becomes the new baseline. And that's exactly what we're seeing with groceries. Prices didn't just spike and return to normal. The entire system reset at a higher level. And once that reset happens, it's very difficult to reverse. For consumers, that creates a frustrating reality. Even when inflation slows down, prices don't go back to where they were. They just stop rising as quickly. So a lower inflation rate doesn't mean cheaper groceries. It just means they're getting more expensive at a slower pace, which is why so many people feel like something is off. Because they're being told inflation is improving, but their grocery bill still feels high every single week. And that disconnect is real, because inflation measures the rate of change, not the level of prices. And the level of prices has already moved up, which raises a bigger question. If food prices have permanently shifted higher, what does that mean for the cost of living overall? Because groceries are just one category. The same patterns are showing up in housing, services, and everyday expenses across the economy. And once you start seeing it, you realize this isn't random. It's systemic. And understanding how these systems work is the only way to understand where things are heading next. If you made it to the end of this video, please like and subscribe to @Profit Matrix. Have a good one.